So welcome, Katharine.
Thank
Welcome
you.
to the Happy Family World Summit. It's great to have an interview face-to-face because so often I'm talking to other people across the other side of the world. So it's really nice to have you here.
Oh, thank you.
No, thank you for coming. So, Katharine, tell us a bit about your journey and how you've got to where you are now.
Yeah, so I qualified from university as a teacher, and I taught in a few schools in England and also in New Zealand. And when I came back from New Zealand, I wanted to do something a bit different. I became an education consultant working for a local authority. And my husband then got offered a job in Hong Kong, so we went out to Hong Kong, which was a great opportunity. And I think it was at that point I became really fascinated in nutrition. I was very aware of the pollution in Hong Kong and within the environment. And also I was sort of thinking further ahead about having a family and sort of, thinking about my well-being as well with regard to that. And we shortly came back to the UK, and I had a daughter. She's now 7. And while she was still quite young, it was a great opportunity for me then to do some more studying. And at that point, I went back to college and trained to be a nutritional therapist. So it was a good 3.5 years of study. But now I'm here and I've done that.
Brilliant, great. And it's quite early days for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
But, you've made some great progress already. So tell us a bit more about that.
I basically set up my brand, The Food Teacher, in my last year of study. And I watched my Facebook page grow and develop really rapidly, which was amazing. And it was a great way to sort of test what people were interested in. And I sort of found that people really wanted recipes and helpful tips about how to sort of feed their family, which was great. And then I also won an award for Outstanding Student of the Year at my last year of studies, which was partly based on my business growth with the Food Teacher Facebook page, and also with the development of my business plan and how I could see myself going forward. And then I basically started practicing really from last October. So I run a clinic, I see clients one-to-one, and also over the internet. And I work with schools and families.
Great, fantastic. So you're very, very busy.
Yeah.
And you still get time to cook at home?
Yes, no, I still get time to cook at home. Great.
So you obviously have a real passion for it. And I struggle with having a passion for food because if I won the lottery tomorrow, the first thing I'd do is I would employ a chef. Because I really struggle thinking of what to feed the family on a daily basis, and I end up giving them the same things again and again and again. So what can mums like me, because I know I'm not alone, I hope I'm not alone, what can mums like me do to just make it easier and a bit more fun? And so, I mean, obviously I'd like to feed the same meal to everyone, but sometimes I don't do that. Yeah. What advice would you give?
Okay, I think it's really important when they're really young to expose them to lots of different flavours. So when I had my daughter, even when she was a baby, I would put different spices and herbs just under her nose so that she'd become familiar with the smells. And I think that's a great start in just being able to introduce different flavours to them. And ideally what you want to do is, as they're toddlers and they go through that particularly fussy stage, which is sort of a predisposition to sort of the caveman time where you become more independent, you become quite picky about food. It's just a survival instinct, so you don't eat poison and things out in the wild. As they sort of go through that stage, it's great then to be able to introduce a whole variety of foods, so different textures, different vegetables, different flavours, because ideally you want to get to a point where you can all eat the same food together. And that's sort of ultimately where you want to be. And thinking about the different flavours. So, children love sort of coconutty flavours, pesto flavours, those kind of things. If you can introduce those, get them used to them, then they're great as sort of family, sort of mealtime sort of foods.
Great. And what if you have fallen into bad habits and your children have quite a unvaried diet and it's like pasta bolognese, maybe pasta something else the next day, or just quite sort of plain food? How do you get a bit of, because I love spicy food but my kids don't yet.
Okay.
They actually saying that my daughter did when she was a lot younger. She would eat curry with us, but now it's really difficult. So how can you kind of get back on track?
A great way of doing it is getting them involved in the cooking. When you get children involved in the kitchen, it's amazing what they will eat when they've sort of created it. especially if you can get them with their friends round. If you get friends round for a play date, get them to cook up something for dinner, and it's amazing how they'll eat that.
Okay.
Also, if you're trying to introduce new things, is just try a little bit often. Sometimes it takes children up to 10 times to actually try something new before they will actually eat it.
Absolutely.
So it's a little bit and often, and throwing things away. And I've got to be prepared to do that.
Yeah, okay.
But you can get to a point where they will begin to accept it.
And if they do try something and they don't like it, is it just a case of try it again and eventually they might, or if they really test the taste the first time, are they going to likely carry on like that?
Well, if they have an allergic reaction or anything like that, obviously avoid that particular food. But I would say keep going, just a little bit and often. For some children who are particularly fussy about foods, even just having it on their plate is quite a big step forward.
Yes.
And then touching it, smelling it, before they'll even put it in their mouth. So it's kind of, some children it's small steps, and some children make that progression quite quickly.
So we do that. We always put vegetables on the plate, even though I know my son's not really going to eat many of them.
Yes.
They're always there.
Yeah.
Even though I know I'm going to throw some away.
And also disguising them is another great way of getting them in. So sort of, you said about bolognese sauces, they're a great way to get a lot of vegetables in. It can be blended up, and children just don't know they're eating it. Also, I've quite a few tricks along that line, but things like frozen cauliflower in smoothies is great. Makes it really creamy. And because it's frozen, it gives it a nice icy cold texture, and children would never know that that's there.
That's amazing.
And another great one is spinach, just a little bit of spinach in a smoothie. And also I find particularly boys love anything green. You can give it a monster name, or it can be quite gruesome. And that obviously really appeals. So when you make things a bit green. And people say to me, we always make smoothies, we throw them away. But if you've got ice lolly moulds, pour them into ice lolly moulds, because they're great for ice lollies then, and you can kind of get them eaten that way.
Really good idea. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, lots of tips there. I'm going to be busy. So just on that, some of my Facebook friends have sent in some questions for me, and just as we were talking about frozen vegetables, are frozen vegetables as good as fresh vegetables?
That's quite an interesting question, because that's quite a bit of controversy around that. The thing with our fresh vegetables is it's quite often that they haven't been picked and we're eating them the same week. It could have been picked and it's been, kept in containers somewhere, or it's been exported from quite a distance. So that through that whole transportation process, some of the nutrition of that food has been reduced. But with frozen vegetables, they're quite often picked and frozen straight away, which retains quite a lot of their nutrition. So I often recommend frozen vegetables and fruit, especially things like blueberries, which are very expensive. I often recommend those to people to have frozen, because for some people that can be a cheaper way of accessing some of these foods. So,
absolutely.
Perfect.
Yeah, great. Because they're cheaper and obviously they're frozen so they don't go off.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I do find sometimes I'm throwing fruit away if it doesn't get eaten. So.
And frozen fruit's great in a smoothie or great on a porridge. So that works brilliantly.
Great. Okay. I'm loving this. Great tips. And on the frozen thing, is freezing meals okay? So say you've cooked a bolognese and I used to do a massive batch and then freeze some. Is that going to retain the nutrients?
Yes, it is going to retain, And I would always recommend that with people, especially if you're feeding young children and you're used to throwing a lot of things away. By freezing it as well, it just means that you've got it there, you can re-expose them to that same food again on another occasion. Okay. So,
and I know we're getting quite technical, but when you're defrosting something, can you just shove it in the microwave, or should you let it defrost?
I would recommend defrosting it, totally, before you start to heat it.
Right.
It's just about the bacteria in the sort of food
Even
safety.
Even if you use the defrost on the microwave?
I tend not to use a microwave for the reasons of the way that cooks food.
Yeah, because that's been in the news a lot recently. So tell us a bit more about that.
Well, I tend to avoid cooking at very high temperatures. It's better to cook things at slower temperatures. And that nice... when you cook something on the barbecue and you get that nice charcoal, that's not great for you. It it's very hard work for the body to sort of break that down and get rid of that.
Right.
So I often recommend that people cook with slow cookers. It's a great way to cook meat. Yep. And it just by cooking food gently, it's also it kind of softens the meat as well, keeps it in a moist environment, which also is easier for the digestive system to break down and get the nutrition from it.
Right.
Great for a roast chicken. Always cook my roast chicken in a slow cooker at the weekend.
Oh, wow.
And then I just put carrots and celery in the bottom, put my roast chicken on top, cook that then for about 3 hours, and we eat our roast chicken. Then I throw the bones back in with some liquid, and I actually put it outside because of the smell. But some people like the smell.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And then I just make the chicken stock. I let that boil for about 8 hours.
Oh, wow.
And then I've got my stock, and then I can use that the next day in my cooking.
Brilliant.
So that's great. And
That's
the
great.
chicken stock is brilliant for digestive health.
Right.
It helps to feed all the cells in the gut, so it just helps the regeneration of the digestive system. So there's so many benefits of that chicken stock.
Oh, great. And obviously that's much better than buying a chicken stock cube from the shop.
Yeah, definitely. And if you've got a nice organic chicken that you're going to start with, you know that's going to be rich in nutrients. So,
Great. Yeah, I do use a slow cooker, but I never thought of putting a roast chicken in there.
No, it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
And it still goes crispy.
Yeah, it doesn't go so crispy on top, but what you find is the meat just falls right off the bone, so it's so easy. Yeah.
So this is so interesting. Thank you. So how can we make sure that our children are eating healthily? There's so much information out there, and then you see reports in the newspapers on a weekly basis that contradict the report that was out the week before. What are the kind of basic rules to follow when you're feeding your family?
So I think the key things to think about are growing children need protein, so they need to have good quality protein for their cell growth and their development. So you're thinking about your chicken, your meats. Also having a range of animal and plant-based protein is also really beneficial. And I would also recommend with red meat, a lot of people ask me about red meat, is perhaps having it less, but having a really good quality red meat. So try and look for a grass-fed red meat. So a grass-fed red meat is richer in omega-3s, and omega-3s are also very beneficial for growing children. So the second thing I would say would be fats. Lots of really good fats, really important for everybody, all ages. So also very important for sort of mood, concentration, all of those sort of factors.
So what would be a good fat?
So a good fat would be something like an avocado, nuts, seeds, and the fat that you get from oily fish. So if we just look at the brain, so the brain's made up of 65% of its dry weight is actually fat, and 25% of that is omega-3 fatty acid, DHA. And DHA is a fat that you get from oily fish. It's very difficult to get that from other things like nuts and seeds. So either you need to encourage your children to eat oily fish, or you need to be able to supplement with a fish oil that's quite high in DHA. And there's lots of little tips for how to get children to eat oily fish. Things like putting pesto on salmon. Children tend to love that. Mackerel with natural yogurt, something like that as a dip. That can often work quite well with children. So we've got your proteins and your fats. Another really important thing is to make sure children eat a whole range of fruit and vegetables. So I talk to children about eating a rainbow. Try and eat a rainbow every day. So important because all the different fruit and vegetables have different phytonutrients, different plant chemicals, which have different benefits for the body. So some of those benefits could be around strengthening blood vessels, helping the skin, helping the bone health, a whole range. So eating a whole range, eating a complete rainbow will help to give you all of those sorts of benefits.
Great.
And the other factor that I often talk to families about is balancing blood sugar and how important that is. So those are sort of my key areas that I talk to people about.
Okay. So just going back to the colours thing. So for example, peppers, you get orange, green, yellow and red. Are they giving you different nutrients depending on what colour you choose?
Yeah. Also the really beneficial ones tend to be the ones that are really darker in colour.
Right.
So your sort of your red grapes, your red cabbage, your red onion, all of those, they're really rich in antioxidants, which are great for the brain as well.
Brilliant. Okay, that's great. Fabulous. And then blood sugar.
Yeah.
So we've all heard about blood sugar, but I think I understand it, but a lot of people don't know what it is. Can you explain to us?
Yeah, sure. So if you can maintain a very stable blood sugar level, that's going to be so beneficial for sort of mood, concentration, learning, focus, all of those factors. If your blood sugar is like a roller coaster, which is going up and down very, very rapidly, that's going to significantly affect your mood, your energy levels, and as a child, their behaviour.
Yeah.
So being aware of blood sugar levels and how to keep it quite stable is really, really important. So I'll just talk through sort of an example.
Yeah.
So if you think about a child, they've just woken up, they haven't eaten anything, they've had that sort of 12-hour fast overnight. You give them a bowl of sugary cereal, it's going to send their blood sugar up really high very rapidly, and it will likewise come down very rapidly. And you'll probably be familiar with that kind of morning, mid-morning kind of behaviour, their concentration. They may see at school their concentration is not very well focused. And then it may be a sugary cereal bar, something like that. Even raisins, a whole packet of raisins. I'll talk about those in a minute. And how that's going to send the blood sugar back up. So it's what you give children to eat has a massive effect on all those factors. So if we go back to breakfast, if you give them a piece of perhaps wholemeal toast with an egg, so you've got your carbohydrate and your protein, the whole grain in the carbohydrate will help to slow down the release of sugar, as will the protein. Okay. So when you think about any mealtime or any snack for children, it's really important that they have the carbohydrate with the protein, because that will help to slow it down. So they've got their egg and their wholemeal toast, so that's going to send their blood sugar up slowly and it will come down slower. Then for snack time, say for example they had some cheese, say for example they had some apple, that's going to just alone send their blood sugar up quite high. So if you have it with some protein, such as some cheese or some chicken, or some ham, then that's going to help to slow down the release of the sugar.
Great.
So that's going to help to keep it more sort of more even. So it's just sort of being aware of what has a massive impact on blood sugar. So, and just to give you another sort of comparison, a whole punnet of raisins has the effect on blood sugar as 10 raisins. So parents don't realise that, and they think that giving a child 10 raisins is a really healthy snack, or actually they wouldn't have 10 raisins, they'd have a lot more than that. And so that's going to send their blood sugars up very, very rapidly. So because anything that's been dehydrated, it's lost its water content, will also have a massive impact on sugar levels. So if you give them half a punnet of blueberries, which seems like quite a lot, that's not going to have such a dramatic effect on their blood sugar. Okay. So berries are very low sugar level, as are things like pears and apples. Okay.
And that's great because berries are quite sweet, aren't they?
Yes.
So they're getting that sweetness.
Yes, definitely, that they may be craving. Yeah, but also when your blood sugar is like a roller coaster, you crave sugar things even more, which just exacerbates the problem.
Yeah. So, I used to have that so badly. I've more or less sorted it out, but some days are worse than others. Yeah. But I can really tell if I start the day off without my porridge and I have a different cereal, there's such a difference. Yeah, there is. And you mentioned wholemeal toast. White toast just doesn't cut it, does it?
Well, what happens is white toast gets broken down so much quicker, so it converts to sugar very rapidly. Right. With the whole grain, so likewise with the porridge, because it's a whole grain, it's slower to release to sugar, so it doesn't have such dramatic effect. Okay.
And what about instant porridge? Because I know I used to use that, and I thought that was great, but then someone told me, well, it's instant, so it's no good.
I would recommend having the whole oats, because it's going to take the digestive system longer to break that down. It's going to keep you fuller for longer, and it obviously hasn't gone through the level of processing that something like an instant porridge would have. And it's just going to slowly release to sugar. Yeah. And also with a lot of those instant ones, they're often sweetened. They often add in other things. Yeah. So you just need to kind of. Nice.
You can't win. To be aware. Okay, great. And if your child doesn't eat porridge and they just, like mine, have Cocoa Pops or whatever they're called, shouldn't say brand names, but and I hate the fact, I can't believe that I give them Cocoa Pops. I'm so like disappointed in myself every morning. I was like, I can't believe they're eating Cocoa Pops, they should be having porridge. But and I hate saying but they don't like porridge, because I guess if it was just there they would eventually just eat it. But you're so concerned about giving them a meal so that they go to school with a full tummy. Are there any sort of cereals, and obviously we probably shouldn't talk about brands, but cereals that are better? Because I kind of look at the sugar in them and I think, well, the sugar, I look at the carbohydrate and the sugar, and I've kind of chosen the lowest one that I can see, but I still feel it's not great.
Okay. I tend to steer clear from all of the cereals because I think they're so processed to have got from the real grain to get to the actual flake that's been created. And also, I wonder how much nutrition is actually going to be in that. And a lot of them are fortified, so it's synthetically added nutrients. What I often do with children in school, and they absolutely love it, is I get jumbo oats. I will get sort of quinoa flakes, nuts, seeds, fruit, and I'll get them to make their own muesli.
Oh, okay.
So we just lay it all out, and they just make their own. And also, if you're trying to wean them off the Cocoa Pops, let them add some Cocoa Pops to their own muesli.
Oh, okay.
So they'll have a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But eventually they'll, hopefully they'll enjoy their own muesli so much more.
That sounds really
but
good,
if
actually.
they've done it themselves,
they
they often really like that. And also you can kind of let them have a little bit of what they, that they really like, the Cocoa Pops, but it's also being kind of quite well managed.
Yes.
And also they love their own muesli with some natural yogurt. So you're not having milk all the time, you're also putting in some of that Greek natural yogurt, so you've got some of that
and that
goodness.
is delicious, isn't it?
Yeah, and rich in protein there as well.
Yeah.
So
Great. Okay, need to make some big changes in our house, I think. So, talking about snacks, you mentioned the kind of the dip in sugar levels sort of around mid-morning time, so that's a good time to give a snack. Portable snacks, because a lot of the time we're at toddler club or football or whatever, or I've got a 20-minute drive home from school, and when my kids come out, they're absolutely ravenous.
Yes, yeah.
So I'm usually quite good. I cut up peppers, or I take a cut up apple. My kids will only eat, they prefer an apple to be cut up. But sometimes if I'm out and I've forgotten to get something, or, whatever reason it might be, banana's got mashed up and is now unedible, I have in the past given them like yogurt covered raisins or a cheese dipper or something like that. That's really bad, isn't it?
I would say
it's alright, I can take it.
If you want to grab something quick, I would say even cottage cheese or hummus with oat cakes.
Okay.
Great, because oat cakes are also going to slowly release some sugar and help to keep them fuller for longer. And also you want the protein, so some cottage cheese, some cheese, some hummus.
Okay.
So something like that is a great sort of grab. You can just run to the supermarket, grab that, and it's kind of quite okay.
Yeah. Okay, that's useful.
If you're doing little pots of things and you're running up to school, great to put some hummus in the bottom of a pot and then carrot and cucumber sticks into that as well at the bottom, and then they can just eat like that. I always recommend oat cakes. I think they're a great slow release and often quite low in gluten as well, which for some people gluten is quite sensitive for their digestive system. So I recommend oat cakes. Okay, it's a good
and
snack.
Are breadsticks anywhere near in goodness?
Well, breadsticks are obviously white, made from white flour, and are going to convert to sugar very, very quickly.
Right.
So just something to sort of be aware of.
Yeah. Okay. And scrap. Okay, that's great. So in terms of drinks that go with food, I'm all right in this area. My kids don't only drink water. Occasionally on a very, very large treat day, we're out or something, they might have juice or apple juice or whatever. How bad is it to constantly give them juice or whatever it might be, concentrate with water?
Well, obviously it's quite dramatic on the blood sugar levels because it's very rich in sugar, which you sort of need to be aware of. And carbonated drinks are also quite damaging on their bone health. And a lot of those sort of diet drinks are also sweetened with artificial sweeteners, which are not great for brain health either and brain development. Okay. So I would recommend sort of avoiding all of those. If your children can will drink water, that's brilliant. They've also got some great infuser bottles out now. So you've got your water bottle, but it's got an infuser, and you can put fruit, you know, so you can have sort of strawberry flavoured or something. And they're great, really portable as well, great to sort of carry around.
They sound quite fun as well.
Yeah,
for kids,
yeah, definitely. Okay. And the other option is really to go with smoothies, maybe encouraging children to have smoothies. But I would say more as a snack rather than with a meal.
Because if you give them too much smoothies, that's too much fruit, and then that has an impact on their sugar levels as well, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and I would try and get more vegetables into the smoothie. So like I said about the cauliflower, and spinach is also a great one to sneak into that.
And avocado too, that makes it creamy, doesn't it? Makes it taste nice.
And that's rich in great fats as well, which would be brilliant for their brain and energy.
And there's a lot, I speak from experience, I love smoothies, and there's a lot of food that I would never eat, I don't particularly enjoy, and stuff that I wouldn't eat on its own, but in a smoothie, as you say, you can't taste it, the texture's gone if it's a texture thing that you don't like. So, I use my smoothie maker every day. So.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah,
that's great. That's great.
Cool. Okay, and what else can we... So you would recommend snacks for children to keep their blood sugars?
Yeah, I think snacks are really important for children, especially as they're growing, and they also go through different growth spurts at different times, which can have a massive impact. And as a parent, you see it. You see these you see them drop, and they become the child that you don't recognise.
Well, you recognise too well.
Yeah. So by sort of giving them the snacks and keeping their blood sugar level even, I think if they have the right things, the right types of food, then that's great. I don't think you need to worry.
Great. Yeah. Okay, brilliant. And in terms of just one thing I wanted to go back to, sorry to flish you around, but the juices and the concentrates, even if they say no added sugar, they're still sugar, aren't they?
Yeah, then they can contain artificial sweeteners, which there is quite a bit of evidence around them being neurotoxic for the brain. So, and you know, the child's brain goes through a lot of development up to about age sort of 2, and that carries on to about 5, but then massively during the teenage years. So those are sort of key times when you want to avoid all of those kind of artificial sweeteners. Okay. But you don't want them to get used to having them. Really.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So if we're not doing the right thing with food and drinking, it's never too late. We really need to pull it back.
Oh no, it's never too late. No, you can make a massive difference. So, I work with a lot of children in clinic, and they, can come with some quite severe problems. And by making a massive difference to their food and adding quite a lot of supplementation, we can see massive differences in their progress.
Great.
It's fascinating.
Fabulous. So we've talked a little bit about supplementation. I assume it's something you recommend. What kind of supplements should we be giving our children?
Well, on a very basic level, I tend to recommend a sort of a multivitamin. Yeah. So children are getting a whole range of nutrients. And there's quite a lot of research out there today about the soil just doesn't have the nutrient levels, the minerals in it that it used to have. So we're not getting what we used to from our fruit and vegetables, which is quite interesting. So I do recommend a multivitamin. For some children, I recommend sort of an immune support type supplement as well for some children that are frequently ill. Yeah. I run a program called Nutrition for Learning with children in schools. It's a one-on-one program. And some of the children I've worked with have been off school quite a lot sick. So with those particular children, we look at some immune support boosting sort of nutrients. And really importantly, I would recommend a fish oil supplement. And you need to look at your fish oil supplement. It needs to be really high in DHA. That is absolutely key for the brain development. Okay. So and for brain health. Yeah. So even as an adult, as you're getting older, just thinking about the brain, DHA is really, really important. Yeah. And another factor is I often send a lot of children that come to see me in clinic to their GP just to be tested for particular nutrient levels. And vitamin D is another one that most children come back deficient just because of our climate, really, and not being exposed to the sun. And I think a lot of parents quite conscious of sun health and put a lot of sun cream on, and even keep children really covered up. So vitamin D is another supplement that I would recommend. Really important for bone health, for children, but for lots of other factors. But bone health and immunity really important.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I think you do see it more, people slapping on sun cream at the drop of a hat, and I think sometimes they need, obviously we don't want our children to burn, but they need a little bit of sunshine, don't they?
At least 20 minutes with as much skin exposed as you can.
Great.
Yeah,
okay.
That would be brilliant.
Lovely. And iron is the other thing we haven't spoken about. So we've got family members that are deficient in iron, and since they've been on just a very small amount of supplementation, they've just transformed. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. And I think that's quite common in kids nowadays, isn't it?
Yeah, so iron deficiency seems to be really, really common with a lot of adult clients that I've worked with, and children. I've found most of them have come back deficient in iron. I think a lot of people seem to be reducing their consumption of red meat, which may be one factor. And also, to absorb iron really well, you need to have it with vitamin C rich foods. So things like peppers, kiwi fruit, oranges, those sorts of foods, really rich in vitamin C. They just help the body absorb and utilise that iron. But for many people, I've put them on supplementation, and it's made a massive difference. People have talked to me about their hair falling out, really foggy, sort of brain fog, those kind of factors. And there's a lot of research about children and cognition and iron levels. Right. And also quite a lot about children with sort of brain deficiencies and sort of brain conditions. A lot of those children can have very low iron levels, which is quite interesting.
So what fascinates me the most about this whole nutrition thing, a lot of people, when they think about nutrition, they just think about weight and calories and fat. I think because we're adults and we're very conscious of our bodies and all that kind of thing. And then if you diet, you kind of limit so much. But it's just so, nutrition is so much more than that, isn't it? It's like, it's so important to every part of our body. Not like you were saying, you mentioned the brain a lot, cognitive, behavioural, all those things. I think it's so important.
So yeah, definitely. And I think when people diet, they tend to miss out one food group particularly, and for a lot of people that's fat. And fat is so important for brain function. And it's so interesting now, the rise in dementia and Alzheimer's that we have in our older population. So the importance of fat, you can't stress strongly enough.
Absolutely.
So
even if there's a family with a slightly larger child who they think, I need to put my child on a diet, and we won't go into all the emotional problems of all of that, but which are obviously huge in themselves. But it sounds like it could be much easier if only those people could hopefully listen to this interview and listen to you, and not restrict the food, but just in some cases probably increase it, but increase it with the right healthy nutrition, loaded food.
Absolutely. So one of the key ways to lose weight is to focus on balancing blood sugar levels. So if you're aware of how food impacts on your blood sugar levels, then you can actually start to manage your weight better. So, if you're going to eat white pasta, if you're going to give your children white pasta for dinner, that's going to convert to sugar very, very quickly. So just by educating people about sort of the carbohydrates that they're giving to children, and they can hopefully help to see that that's what is affecting the weight management of their children.
And so wholemeal pasta, that's okay?
You can. Wholemeal pasta obviously slows down, releases its sugar slower. But gluten can be quite a big factor for some people, and that can also be related to weight management as well. So maybe trying to look for alternatives. You can actually buy chickpea pasta, which is very high in protein. So I've seen that as well. Or even, I don't know if you've seen courgette spaghettis. This is another alternative
I've
that
heard
you can
about
try.
it, and I would love to try that. Yeah.
So courgette spaghettis are quite a good one for children. And sort of when we talked about the cereal, you can also do a little bit of normal spaghetti and a bit of courgette spaghetti and kind of blend it in gradually. to get them used to it. And if you get children involved in the kitchen, if you get them coming to make the courgette spaghetti, it's amazing how they will then suddenly eat it.
Absolutely. That's definitely a theme throughout these interviews. A few experts have said, get the children in the kitchen with you to learn about the food and the healthy side and all of that, but also to appreciate what you do and the importance of it, really.
Yes.
We're teaching them life skills, aren't we?
Yeah.
By being able to cook and having a love for food, which I never had. So
and I think when they get to about 8 or 9, they can easily you can say one night a week you're going to cook for the family and encourage them to start thinking about what we're going to eat and how they're going to plan that. And you can be their assistant in the kitchen. But they love that because they've taken ownership of it as well.
We just need to let go of the control and the mess and all that kind of thing. Let it go. It'll be worth it. The payoff is worth it. Great. Okay, I'm just checking my. I think we've covered all the questions I had. Just one thing actually. Sometimes if kids are out, they've been to a party, and obviously party food is usually terrible. And they come home, and it's kind of too late for tea, but they need something. What's a good thing to give them before they go to bed?
I would give them something like cottage cheese or chicken, maybe with the oat cakes again.
Right, okay.
So you've got a little bit of protein. Also, those foods are rich in tryptophan, which will help to calm you just before you go to bed. So they'd be great. If some people would have a cup of warm milk or something like that. So that's also rich in tryptophan. It'll just help to calm them down and also give them a little bit of protein.
Great.
Before they go to sleep.
Because I've had sleeping problems in the past, and tryptophan is hailed as, you must have it. Bananas are very high in them, aren't they?
Okay, yes, bananas.
But I found bananas to have before bed for me was a disaster.
Okay.
Because
it had an excitatory effect.
Yeah. So I guess a lot of it is just trial and error, and people do react differently in some cases.
Yeah, and the other thing to think about is magnesium. Magnesium is really important to relax and calm, really important for the muscles. Yeah. So I use it as an oil, and I spray it on my hands and sort of rub it onto my back at night. Okay. So it helps just to calm everything down. If you've got any achy joints and things, and it's great with children. I've used it with children that have been constipated, and you rub it onto their abdomen at night before they go to bed. It just helps to relax everything, calm everything down, and it goes into the body's cells at night. Right. So really beneficial before bed. Just helps to calm and then helps them to sleep. And with constipated children, it's great for getting things moving early again in the morning.
Okay, well, that's good.
So
and you can't sort of overdose on magnesium?
No. What you tend to notice with the magnesium oil is if you're quite deficient, once you put it on, you'll be very itchy.
Oh, right.
And that in itself is quite telling.
So that's if you are deficient. If you're
quite deficient, yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's really interesting. Because I tried that and I was itchy.
You were very itchy there.
Okay. So I need to keep doing it.
So you just keep doing it. Little and often, yeah.
I just thought I was allergic to the spray.
Night. Okay.
So that's really interesting. Cool. Yeah. Okay. And one of the things I've changed since one of the first interviews I had with the experts, with one expert in particular, since doing this summit, I've stopped. I used to give the kids yogurts after dinner, and it used to be a bit of a treat as well, and I was quite conscious I wasn't comfortable with it, and I've totally stopped it, and I have to say, them going to bed now, it's so different in our house. It's calmer, it's not perfect. Obviously there are some nights where it's difficult, but generally it's had such a massive effect. But they still say, oh, but can't we have something? And I really don't know what to give them. So what would be a kind of like a treat thing, but that's okay? Okay,
what tends to go down really well in our house is frozen fruit and vegetables.
Okay.
Frozen fruit for a pudding. So what my daughter loves to do is she loves to thread like berries onto a kebab stick and pop it in the freezer, and then take that out and munch on that. And and also a lot of children that are very fussy about foods, they do like things frozen. So I found I can get children to eat frozen peas, that they just won't eat peas normally when they've been cooked. So frozen fruit sticks are great with children. Or I would give them, a lot of yogurts tend to be very high in sugar. If you're going to give them a yogurt, I'd give them sort of a Greek natural yogurt and add a little bit of cinnamon. Cinnamon is great for helping to balance blood sugar. Obviously the berries are very low sugar. or maybe make something. You can use sort of dates or apricots as a base, and then nuts and seeds.
Great.
Sort of as a snack before bed. But
okay.
yeah.
Brilliant. And you're going to
if
show
they're
me
quite
that.
happy, if they're quite happy not to have any dessert, then
I think they'd like it.
Okay.
Then it's like, oh, do I introduce it? Because then they'll expect it every day. So, and I noticed on your website there's a particular dessert that caught my eye because I love my chocolate. And it's kind of like a chocolate mousse, isn't it? And you're going to show me how to make that soon.
Yes, so, I will show you.
So the recipe's on the website.
Yes, that's on the website.
And tell me a bit more about your recipes, because you're trialling one in schools at the moment, aren't you?
Yeah, I've just produced a book for schools. It's basically because they brought food and nutrition back into the curriculum last September. A lot of schools are really struggling to deliver the curriculum because many schools in the UK got rid of their school kitchen years and years ago, and without those facilities they're finding it very, very difficult. So I've written a book called No Kitchen Cookery, and it's basically very simple recipes that will cover the needs of the curriculum but with minimal equipment. So you don't need the oven or the food processor or anything. And I've had some great feedback from schools that are using it. It's going to be available for all schools in September.
Wow!
But the schools that are using it now are absolutely loving it, and I've built some nutrition know-how into that as well for the teachers. So.
Yeah, great. Because I'm sure it's the same worldwide, but over here with all the cuts and everything, that's a massive thing that's slid, isn't it? And it's great that we're building that back in, but we have to support the schools to do that, don't we?
Yeah, and I think supporting the schools is key, because a lot of schools have been kind of slammed for not promoting, good health and cooking, but schools are sort of overwhelmed with the amount of work that they have to handle anyway, and so I've kind of come at it at a very manageable way to help them to deliver the curriculum, but in a way that they can do within the classroom.
Great.
And obviously I have quite a few recipes on my website, and I focus on them all being gluten-free, and I never use refined sugar in any of those recipes.
Great. Okay. So that's probably the one thing we haven't spoken about very much, is the gluten thing. So even if your child hasn't got a gluten allergy, it's better to steer away from it when you can.
I tend to steer away from it because I know they are exposed to it anyway. And for some children, you may notice that they get bloated stomachs after they've had quite a bit of gluten.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to be exposed to quite a lot throughout the course of one day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I tend to avoid it at home and in my recipes.
And I guess is that similar to wheat as well?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, that's brilliant. And so your book sounds fabulous. I'm really, great stuff. And good luck with that. And are you going to then hopefully bring that for parents like me who need some help in the kitchen?
No, definitely. I'm working on a book for parents at the moment, and for early year settings as well.
Brilliant. So, okay, lovely, great. And you've got a free gift for us, I believe.
Yes, I've put together some dips. So great high protein range of dips there that will suit the whole family.
Great.
And great to serve with oat cakes, rice cakes, or sort of vegetable sticks and things.
Great. Okay, so you've got the recipe for those, and we'll put the link up.
Yes.
And I would urge everyone to look at Katharine's website, which is www.thefoodteacher.co.uk. So hop on and have a look. Well, thank you so much, Katharine. I've learnt so much. I thought I was not too bad with nutrition, but I've still got a lot to learn. I guess it's a never-ending journey. So thank you so much. And I just urge everyone at home to really, this is the one thing that we can change, probably not with too much trouble. So let's do it. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.